Wieninger Impulsator Dopplebock.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is the first beer I've ever had from the Wieninger Brewery, and it is their Impulsator. And as you all know, if you've watched some of my videos before, you will notice that the Dopplebock style of beer, which this is, usually will have the suffix ATOR on the end of it, and that denotes that it is a Dopplebock. Now there's a reason for that. You've probably heard it 1,000 times, but I'll just say it again just in case you've missed it. Originally this style of beer was called Salvatore, and Paulaner quite sneakily patented that name so nobody else could use that. For example, it would be like some brewery patenting the name bitter, and no other company could use the word bitter for their beers. And I think it's a really snaky thing to do, and you will see this with other people in other walks of life who try to patent names that have been synonymous with a certain object for years, and it really is ridiculous. And I'm surprised this was allowed, but it was. So Salvatore, of course, is the Paulaner Dopplebock, but the other breweries got together and they said, right, well, if Paulaner are going to be like that, all our Doppelbocks are going to end, or they're going to use a word that ends in ATOR, and that's what they've done. So, for example, if you look here, you'll see the Brewery from Tuca. That's a really nice one, actually, not bad at all. And next to it, you've got the Löwenbräu Triumphator. So you get the picture. And in not Bavarian slang, but in the Bavarian accent and dialect, the word Doppelbock translates to billy goat. Hence the reason you will see quite a lot, not all the time, but quite a lot, you will see a picture of a goat on the front of the beer. And I'll just give you a quick close-up on the label just to prove I'm not a liar. So there it is, and it was on the, oh no, I haven't got it, I got rid of it. It was on the Hacker Shore. They had a picture of a billy goat. You'll see it on quite a lot of them. Is there one here? I'm just trying to prove that I'm not a liar, but it does happen. On a lot of these Doppelbocks you will see a billy goat on the front of it, and the reason is because the word Doppelbock, because Bavarians, I'm not sure whether you know, but Bavarians do speak a slightly, I wouldn't say a different dialect, but with a heavy accent of German, and their phrases are quite strange to other Germans as well. I would imagine it would be like a Geordie or even a Cockney speaking to somebody who speaks pronounced English. It would be a bit strange, but that's what it is. Anyway, just get that out of the way. The Wieninger Brewery, not a lot on them, really can't get much on them, and their website is only in German. They're quite a small brewery, and they're based in Bavaria in a place called Tiesendorf, which is right near the Austrian border. It's in a place called Berchtesgadener Land, and it's right near the Austrian border, near Salzburg. So just in case you were wondering where that was, it's near the Austrian border. And that's really all I'm going to give you on this. So without further ado, let's investigate the beer. Righto, 500ml bottle, flip top bottle even, 7.5%, that is normal. With a Doppelbock it's normally high ABV. They're usually dark, very fruity beers. Sometimes, I had one last night actually and it was really nice. No, I lie, that was an Eisbock. I had an Eisbock last night from Schneiderweiss, really good. The Aventius stuff, highly recommend that. This is Dopplebock, which is slightly less ABV. That was 12% last night, that Icebock. This is slightly less than the ABV at 7.5. It contains Spalter hops, which, to be honest, in this style of beer, really don't make much difference at all. You don't normally get much of the hop flavour or aroma in these sort of beers. It's all about the malt and it's all about the yeast. And it's a bit like the Hefeweiss, which of course is all about the yeast. The hops are, I wouldn't say you could throw any hops in, but they're incidental. They're not a big part of the character of the beer. And the same goes for Dopplebock as well. And the IBUs on it are 24. That's about the same as what you would get for your average Helles. But they really are, compared to other beers, they really are quite sweet. In fact, that Icebock, which is a derivative of a Dopplebock, that was 15 IBUs last night, and yeah, it was really good. Keep an eye out for that. The Aventius from Schneider Weiss, really good. Anyway, that is about that. So let's get this opened up. Now, I forgot to mention that it does conform to the Reinheitsgebot. But as you know, that really is not a guarantee of good beer. That is an old law that was brought in to make sure that they didn't use good quality malt that could be used for making bread in brewing beer. Now, if you notice, I'm pouring it into a Rastal glass. This is the glass they suggest to drink it out of. That's certainly what was on the brewery website, so I'm going to do that. By the way, these Rastal glasses, do not pay a lot of money for these. I've seen these going for stupid money. I picked this up for about £3, and that is about right for a glass. I don't mind paying a little bit more if it's a branded glass, but for just a normal Rastal glass, fuck off, don't pay more than £3. I can smell it from here actually. It's reminding me of the Icebox from last night. And the big flavour that you get from that is fruit, but really dark, dried fruit like raisin, sultana, dates, plums, that type of thing. And I don't know whether it's because it's in the Rastal glass, and if you watch my video on glassware, the Rastal glass will funnel the aromas up and concentrate it in quite a small area, and that's the whole point behind the design of the glass. And of course you've got the stem, which allows you to hold the glass without making the beer warm. Of course I'm holding it like a twat, but there you go. Now, as you can see, the head on this is dissipating quite a lot, and that's down to the alcohol. So it's not, in the words of Tom Jones, not unusual. But there you go in the glass. It's a murky brown colour, quite a bit of carbonation, not much of a head to talk about, but the aroma is just fantastic. Really sweet, sweet fruit, candied fruit even. Smells good. Let's get it down the hatch. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. Oh, lovely. Oh, it's really good. Oh, it's fantastic. It's got everything a good Dopplebock should have. I cannot emphasise the fruit flavours that are on here. Now, of course, you get fruit in British beer. Normally they're not as intense, certainly not as sweet either, but these really do come through. And you also get like a dark chocolate, coffee, raisin, date, plum, fig, that sort of flavour. If you can imagine that, you're sort of getting there. No real trace of ethanol on there at the moment. Oh, it's just so good though. They've got the IBUs at 24. I don't know. Obviously that's what they've measured it at, but it really is quite sweet compared to other styles of beer. But it's so moreish. really is, and it's 7.5%. That is dangerously drinkable. And in fact, this, and I've had Doppelbocks recently, so it's not as if I haven't tried it for a while and I'm rediscovering how good this is, but this is a fantastic Doppelbock. Oh, it's lovely. It really is fantastic. Now, if you're a fan of German Dunkels, then if you can imagine a very, very intense Dunkel with extra fruit thrown in, then you're getting the idea of a Doppelbock, and you're getting the idea of this beer. But it is just fantastic. It's what I love about German beer, that they just get it right. And it's not, they obviously use really good ingredients, but the brewers, they are just at the top of their game. And there is a beer blogger, and for the life of me, Patterson, his name is, it's quite well known, really good, really knows his stuff, and he wrote about, you know, the craze with these new world hops that craft brewers are doing, and he's a bit like me. His philosophy is a bit like me when it comes to craft beer. When you've got stuff like this being brewed, you know, the craft brewers can huff and puff all they want, but to me this is the pinnacle of beer, certainly for dark beer. Now I know I'm going to get all philosophical now. Beer to me is like music. It's a personal thing, it's personal taste. What you might like, others might not like, and what others like, you might not like. I get that. However, I would say if you're into beer and you're really not keen on this style of beer, then I would question, not your credentials as a beer drinker, but I would question your taste in beer, because for me this is just absolutely brilliant stuff. Oh, it's just so Moorish. That fruit is so intense. And I'm also getting some almond flavour. And I got almond flavour on the icebox last night. It was very subtle. And I'm getting it here as well. And I'm wondering whether, I'm just noticing this now, whether my palate is getting more sensitive to it. But I've never noticed that in a Doppelbock before. Now, I could have had just two Doppelbocks, or a Doppelbock and an icebox. You sort of got to look at the two together. And I'm thinking, was it always there? But I'm just noticing it now, and it's really nice. It's subtle though. You really have to put your mind to it to get that flavour. But you know, if you just want to knock these back, then you've got to be really careful, because yes, it's got the drinkability, in my opinion, of a lager. That's how good it is. Very refreshing as well. So yeah, a word of caution, 7.5%. You've got to be careful. You cannot neck this, and they sell them in 500ml bottles too. I love the Germans. They just get things right. So what's the verdict on Wieninger Impulsator? Impulsator, I think it's how it's pronounced. This is the first beer I've had from them, and this is fantastic. This is a really, really good Doppelbock, and in my opinion, I think it's up there with the best of them. I really do. And yeah, the big six, they do, or the big six from Munich, they do some really good Doppelbocks, believe me. The Hackeshaw Doppelbock is, I think it's the Animator, that one. That is really good. Even the Paulaner Salvatore, that is good as well. But also, this Brewery here, and the Löwenbräu Triumphator. But the Brewery is really good. I really recommend that. Now, Tuka are a big brewery. They do contract brewing, and I've had some bad beer from them. So I want to explode the myth that I give Bavarian beer, every beer from Bavaria that I try, I'll give it a 10 out of 10. I don't. I absolutely panned some of their beer because it tasted fucking terrible. But this stuff, that was brilliant. That was one of the best Doppelbocks I've tried, along with the Hackeshaw stuff. And I'm going to say this is one of them as well, because I just love the taste of this stuff. It is fantastic. And if you're a fan of Dopplebock and you've not tried this, then you've got to try this, because this really is a good one. Now, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10 because this is my thing. I love dark beers. If truth be told, yes, I love light coloured beers, you know, Hefeweizens and lagers, Helleses, whatever you want to call them. I love Belgian triples, amber ale, etc. But for me, I think dark beer, dark malty beers and fruity beers are what I'm into. And of course this ticks all the boxes. It's lovely. If you're a fan of Belgian doubles, if you're a fan of English old ale, then you got to try this. And just try Dopplebocks, because they really are an underrated style of beer. The ABV will put a lot of people off because it's high. It's a winter beer, or it's a seasonal beer, and I like them. I think they're probably one of the best styles of German beer. There are good styles of German beer, don't get me wrong. I love Dunkels, Dunkelweisses, etc. But Dopplebock is one of my favourites just because of the flavour intensity, and this doesn't disappoint. So I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10, and I'm definitely going to recommend it. I got this from the House of Trembling Madness, which is in the People's Republic of Yorkshire. In York, to be exact. I'll tell you exactly how much this was. It's not as expensive as the Schneider Weiss. Oh, £2.70. £2.70. I looked on the website. They don't have a beer that's over €2. So if you're in Germany, that is a fucking bargain in anyone's book. And I love it. That is going to get a 10 out of 10, and I definitely recommend it. And remember, beer is working class champagne.